If you are above 30 and if you have not taken into consideration your Navamsha chart, then you will not know the entire picture of what is happening in your life. So there is something known as a Saturn return, and that is basically the time when Saturn comes back to the same position as it was at the time of birth. And Saturn takes approximately 29 to 30 years to complete its movement throughout the entire zodiac and come back to the same position as it was at the time of birth. And this roughly divides life into three parts: first 29 30 years, middle 30 years, and last 30 years. It could also be 28 and a half years, 29 years, but let's just take roughly 30 years. Now, even practically speaking, if we think about life, we can divide life roughly into three parts. The first 30 years, where a person is staying with the parents for the first 20 25 years, receiving a lot of facilities, love and affection, education, and the parents are basically taking care of you. And you might move out of the house at that time, or you might take more responsibility, in your middle 20s or something like that. You might start your job and get married even, but it's still just the beginning of life. And the middle 30 years is the time when a person is actually living their life, your responsibilities, your families, your job. And that is like the major chunk of when you are really living your life. And in the last 30 years, even according to Shastra and practical life, a person is supposed to retire soon and take up spirituality more seriously and prepare for the next life. So that is how roughly we divide life into three parts. And also, most of the people will experience a certain kind of a nature or personality shift around the age of especially 29 30, and people can get very confused by that. I was a different person before, now I feel very different. And it can be very confusing, and it can almost feel like, this is not me, how am I so different? And people around us might even say that, we have changed so much. But this is a very normal thing, and this happens for almost everyone. The reason for that is we have a different chart to check for each part of these 30 years. So the main chart which is there, the Lagna Kundli, which was formed at the time of birth, right? That is the main chart, and that is applicable throughout life. We cannot ignore it. We cannot reduce the value of it just because we are looking at other things as well. But then in the middle 30 years, we have to look at the Navamsha chart. The Navamsha chart is considered to be like the heart or the soul of the entire chart. That tells us deeper meanings, and gives us a lot of information about what is the actual nature, actual strength of the planets. And that can be used before 30 to some extent for some deeper clarity about things. But really, after 29 30, you can really start feeling the effects of the Navamsha chart. And it is this Navamsha chart which I'm talking about. And how is this Navamsha chart formed? Well, each sign is divided into 9 parts, and that is why it is called Navamsha, ninth part. So basically, it the calculation boils down to each pada of each nakshatra takes a person to the next sign in the Navamsha chart. And it is one of the most common charts. If you do not know about it, you can check your birth chart. That is the first divisional chart which is given after the Lagna Kundli. That is like, it's a part of the Shodash Varga, but it is separately always mentioned. It's that important. And then for the last 30 years, we have the moon chart or the Chandra Lagna. So that is how we roughly divide life. Now, why is this important? It is important because if you are above 30, and if you are trying to understand what's happening in life, what kind of experiences you're having, even what is coming up, the dashas which are coming up, it is important to check where those planets are placed and what position they are in the Navamsha chart. Now, many people, they say, oh, we don't take this into consideration in Navamsha, or we only take certain aspects into consideration. But I would say that you can read the Navamsha chart just as a normal chart for the middle 30 years of your life. Now, the Lagna chart is your past, and it is always going to affect, and you have to take it into consideration. We wouldn't be ourselves without our past, so it is very important. But at the same time, we won't know the whole picture without the Navamsha chart. For example, a person is, say, a Cancer rising person in their Lagna Kundli, so they'll be very caring, very emotional, um, always, looking to start new things, having excellent ideas. They're like a flowing river. They're always looking towards the future. At the same time, they can be a little bit judgmental, and they tend to take decisions based on their emotions. And that's like, the emotional nature is the most prominent part of them. Now, after 30, a person, say, has a Virgo. Now all of a sudden they're going to be this practical person, you know using their head before their emotions, and wanting perfection about things, having a lot of stability, and really, using their intelligence more. They're still emotional people, no doubt, because cancer is still there, but at the same time, all of a sudden they are very practical about things, which they were not till before. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh my god, I'm different. And that is happening because of the shift that has happened. Now that's just the example of the Lagna Rashi, but all the planets, they take up different positions in the Navamsha chart. They'll be positioned differently in the Navamsha chart, and that is going to give us much more information about how life is going to be in the middle 30 years, um, instead of just looking at the Lagna Kundli. For example, say somebody has an exalted sun, right, in their Lagna Kundli, but a debilitated sun in the Navamsha Kundli. Then the person is going to be very confident, very have a very strong sense of self in the first 30 years of life. But because of whatever situations may happen, or because of life, their experiences, in the middle 30 years, a debilitated sun is going to give them a slight lack of confidence, or at least they'll be humbled down because of the experiences. So externally they might still seem to be confident, but on the inside they are humble, and they sometimes even doubt themselves. So that kind of a shift happens, and people wonder, oh my god, I used to be so confident, what has happened to me now? Well, this is what has happened. The whole chart has changed. Your entire life experience is no longer going to be judged based on just the Lagna Kundli. So it is very important to understand this. And for those who are learning astrology or want to understand astrology better, if you're making predictions, or if you're explaining a person their life based on just the Lagna Kundli, and the person is between 30 and 60, then you're going to miss out on a lot. So that is important to look at the Navamsha chart. Also, for all those who are experiencing this change and feeling very confused, understand that it is a very natural process. Majority of the people experience it. Only the few who have the same Lagna Rashis, say in the Lagna chart and the Navamsha chart, they might not experience a personality shift. They'll still be experiencing life differently, because the planets will be positioned differently. But those who have a different Lagna Rashi and a different Chandra Rashi, they will really feel the change, and it's absolutely normal, and we should accept the change and adapt to it. The sooner we do it, and the more comfortable with that we are with it, is going to be more beneficial. Otherwise, we're just kind of fighting against our own evolution. It's kind of an evolution in our life, in our personalities, and we should align ourselves with it. If you do not know what your Navamsha chart says about you, and if you want to know more, then check out my website, and subscribe for more interesting videos.